Last year, PricewaterhouseCoopers' Global Economic Crime Survey reported that crime committed by internal employees increased from 33% in 2009 up to 54% in 2011. And that in Australia, asset misappropriation was almost 3 times more likely to occur than any other type of fraud. That is, where a company's high-value physical or cash assets are misappropriated by an employee for their own benefit, or just outright theft.
Crime talk. Talking about crime all the time. Yeah. Crime talk.
I'm your host, Gene Paul. Welcome to Crime Talk. Today, we'll be talking about the crime of Christopher Wayne Fuss, in which he embezzled $27 million from Flinders University. Fuss held out to friends that he was a mortgage broker. He propped up a failing local sporting enterprise, bought a $1.7 million mansion, invested large sums in a humanitarian scheme, and traded a vast amount of shares. All of this was done with the university's stolen funds. I have with me forensic psychologist Dr. Phyllis to discuss the psychological machinations of the average embezzler, and indeed Fuss himself. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Phyllis. What characterises a person who commits a crime like embezzlement?
Fuss's personal characteristics comply with the AIC's general profile of fraudsters. He was a Caucasian male in his mid-40s, with no prior criminal record and stable employment, who had completed secondary education and gone straight into the workforce. Typically, those who commit fraud are motivated by some form of greed, and in Fuss's case, he claimed he acted for the benefit of the university, but made large real estate purchases to enhance his self-image.
Could there be any other factors that caused Fuss to embezzle such a large amount of money?
Fuss's behaviour may have stemmed from antisocial personality disorder, as he displays a number of the symptoms. APD is defined as a consistent pattern of disregarding and violating others' rights. To accomplish his crime, he violated others' trust by stealing private data from employees. A common symptom of APD is lacking feeling of guilt, which Fuss demonstrated by denying any wrongdoing. As the judge said, he justified his actions by the fanciful notion that ultimately the investments would prove to be so successful that he would make a profit and the university funds would be repaid with interest. He also justified his behaviour by channeling funds into charities and community groups. He displayed repeated deceitfulness towards others by lying about his occupation. Many of Fuss's friends were unaware he held a job at the university as a cashier supervisor, as he proclaimed to be a mortgage broker.
Didn't he realise that what he was doing was wrong?
This can be explained by cognitive dissonance, which is a motivational state aroused by the opposition of two cognitive elements. The constant success of escaping penalties contrasted with Fuss's knowledge of his wrongful behaviour. Therefore, his attitudes became more accepting of his deceitful behaviour in order to reduce the conflict between his attitudes and his behaviour.
Thanks for that, Dr. Phyllis. Now I have with me on the phone Sonny Tabernacle, who's going to give us some legal insight into the crime of embezzlement. Hi there, Sonny. Thanks for joining the show.
That's alright, Gene Poole. It's a pleasure to be here talking to you about corporate crime.
So what crimes are involved in cases of this despicable, fraudulent nature?
Well, there's all sorts of matters to consider depending on the nature of the crime and the participants involved. First things first, the prosecuting body has a wide range of offences at their disposal. It may be that many offences are applicable in the same set of circumstances.
And what about some specifics?
These offences are all found in Part 5 of the Criminal Law Consolidation Act. They include theft, deception, dishonest dealings, crimes. All of these are important weapons in the arsenal of prosecutors.
Can you tell us about the crime that Fuss was actually charged with?
Fuss was originally charged with 58 offences of theft. Through plea bargaining, he was able to lower the amount and severity of the charges against him, ended up being prosecuted for a single count of dishonest dealing with documents. Which basically covers a wide range of activities involving documents that are deemed to be dishonest ways of dealing.
What can you tell us about how Fuss was sentenced and what the judge considered in sentencing?
The judge can take into consideration anything they want, but common considerations include the remorse shown by the offender, how early in the proceedings they pled guilty, the degree to which the offender has cooperated with the police investigation, the age, physical, and mental condition of the offender, as well as the need to deter the offender and the public at large from committing similar crimes. In the case of Mr. Fuss, the maximum sentence was 15 years, but the judge only gave him 9 years, taking into account his early guilty plea and cooperation. In fact, the judge himself remarked that the fact that Fuss, being a person of good character with minimal criminal history, was part of the reason he was able to access the funds of the university. It was important to set an example that this kind of crime will not be tolerated in South Australia.
Right, thanks for your time, Mr. Tabernacle. You've given us great insight into the legal aspects of embezzlement.
No worries, Gene Poole. Hey, I have a baby if you'd like to see a picture of it.
Thanks for that, Sonny. Now, I'm speaking with Robin Banks on the telephone, who's going to give us a little bit of criminological insight into the crime of embezzlement. Are you there, Robin?
Nice to be with you, Gene. Criminology provides several theories which explain the crime of embezzlement, but the mere fact of even having the opportunity to commit the crime is the one necessary factor. Opportunity theories explain embezzling as a result of 3 specific elements: a situation, a motivated offender, and having no effective safeguards. Fuss's supervisory position gave him access to huge sums of money, EFTPOS machines, cheques and computer systems. He was seemingly motivated by his need to appear wealthy and philanthropic. Furthermore, Flinders University admitted it lacked effective financial safeguards.
So, are there any other theories that explain Fuss's behaviour?
Strain theories state that when people can't get what they want through legitimate channels, they resort to illegal behaviour. General strain theory seems to better explain Fuss's motives because it claims that severe strain can result from the inability to achieve status goals. Fuss was on $50,000 a year with a child needing constant medical attention and was clearly unable to achieve his desired status as an entrepreneur and businessman.
What on earth was he thinking? Did he think he was going to get away with it?
Embezzlers tend to try and justify their crimes by arguing there is little harm caused. There are specific methods of negating this harm by using a set of what's called neutralisation techniques. These techniques include denying that he or she is responsible for what could be perceived as a crime. They deny either that there is even a crime or a victim, claiming it was done for some greater good. Some even condemn the victims by claiming they had it coming or it served them right.
So what about specifically in the case of Fuss?
In the case of Mr. Fuss, one could argue that he consistently denied his responsibility as a cashier, the injury caused, and the university as a victim by reiterating he had expected to receive returns of millions of dollars from his investments, which he would use to repay the university with interest.
So are you saying he told himself he was borrowing the money and he was going to give it back?
Well, we'll never know whether the profit was destined for the university, but the judge himself said that Fuss's altruistic pursuits allowed him to avoid his own sense of guilt for his dishonest dealings. Fuss also tried to justify his behaviour by telling the lawyer he'd begun offending to assist family members who were having trouble getting finance. This, however, doesn't account for his repeat offending and certainly didn't convince the judge.
Clearly. Thanks for that, Robin.
Thank you, Gene.
See you after the break, guys.
Crime Talk.
So it appears then that embezzlement is a quickly growing and concerning crime with numerous complexities and nuances, and that the Fuss case highlighted the need for effective safeguards for Australian businesses if they want to combat embezzlement effectively. We'll leave you with a reenactment of the way Fuss committed this crime. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thanks for listening to Crime Talk.
Crime Talk, talking about crime. All of the